Well, good evening, my fellow Toastmasters, attendees at the February Speakers Bureau. Usually Tom is in this position, standing before you to kick off the meeting, but lo and behold, Tom had oral surgery yesterday, 4 teeth pulled. So he's keeping his communication to a minimum until his mouth feels a little bit better, but he's here. I, Connie Jameson, will be taking over and for most of the meeting. We have 2 speakers. Our first speaker will be introduced by Michael Ozier. Are you there, Michael, to get us rolling?
Indeed, Connie, can you hear me? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Connie?
Yes.
Okay. Yes? Connie can't hear us, but Rob can.
I will say something. Go ahead, Michael.
You're a little faint for me where I'm standing, but I don't know about
Well, can the
everyone
group,
else.
can those in the auditorium hear us?
Now I
Rob?
hear you.
Oh, perfect. He fixed it. Welcome to District 12 Speakers Bureau for February. Do you believe that citizenship is a fundamental right that every child of Americans should possess? Do you believe in equal rights and opportunities for all adoptees? Would you support an initiative dedicated to seeking justice for adoptees and to eliminating barriers and hardships faced by them without citizenship? If you answer yes to any of these questions, you are in the right place. Our speaker tonight is a dedicated advocate for adoptee justice and citizenship, with an unwavering commitment to advocacy that mirrors her passion for unraveling ancient health recipes. She's been actively contributing to District 12 Toastmasters since 2019 and proudly holds the distinction of a qualified speaker at the Inland Empire Speakers Bureau. When she's not blazing trails in the realm of adoptee justice, you might find her practicing the nuances of her uphill dance. It seems that when confronted with a hill, she responds with a dance that eloquently rebels against the laws of physics. Can't wait to see that in action. In moments of leisure, our speaker transforms into a culinary maverick, fearlessly navigating the realm of herbs and spices one dish at a time. Our speaker tonight, an advocate, a true trailblazer, presenting California is Home, A Journey to Justice. California is Home, A Journey to Justice. Join me in welcoming qualified speaker, Judy Van Arsdale.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I'd like to begin tonight with a question that touches our hearts. How do children find the path to become citizens of the United States? Today, we will dive into this crucial topic and uncover its profound impact on countless individuals and families. Join me as we explore the 3 pathways. First one is birthright. This includes all children born in the U.S. Second way is derivative. This pathway includes all children whose parents are naturalized, either one or both of them. And the third way is acquired citizenship. through their parents' citizenship here in the US. This includes children who were born overseas, such as military and contract workers who are Americans and gave birth to children in a foreign country. And this also applies to international adoptees. As an international adoptee myself, adoption is not just a legal process. It's a profound human experience. As a child, my life took a 180-degree turn when I became a part of an American family. Speaking of turning points, let's travel back in time to the year Y2K, when Child Citizenship Act, abbreviated CCA, passed Congress and was signed into law by President Clinton. CCA was a game changer for countless international adoptees. It made sure that a lot of them did not have to hire citizenship lawyers to find their way home. It granted automatic American citizenship. It granted the security of belonging, of ensuring that international adoptees were recognized as true members of the American families. Unfortunately, many adoptees were left out of CCA's provisions purely due to age restrictions. Their 18th birthday candles were already blown out. When CCA's effective date came into effect on February 27, 2001. To them, it was like getting a smartphone, but the contract had expired. Due to institutional and parental failure to grant and apply for adopted children's citizenship, many international adoptees born prior to February 28, 1983 were left vulnerable to deportations, and many suffered from a lack of access to other resources American citizens have, including Medicare and Social Security retirement. There are estimates of thousands of adoptees without citizenship. No one knows exactly how many. In some cases, adoptees don't find out themselves until they apply for federal student loans, try to get driver's license, passport, or register to vote. Some even voted several times before finding out they were not US citizens. Can you imagine their fear? They were afraid to reveal that they were not citizens, and having voted, they could be deported. This is a crime, a big crime here in the US. And some adoptees didn't even know they were not American citizens until they were ordered to leave. Deportation is a death sentence for some adoptees. Philip Clay was just 8 years old when a Philadelphia couple adopted him in 1983 from an orphanage in South Korea. He grew up and lived here, believing he was an American. 29 years later, in 2012, when he was 37 years old, he was deported back to South Korea. it was really, really hard for him. He did not know anybody. He did not speak the language. After being deported to that foreign country that he did not remember and could not live in, he hung on for 5 years. On May 21, 2017, 42-year-old Philip jumped from the 14th floor of an apartment building there in Korea. A few weeks later, the South Korean government cremated his body and returned his ashes to his family in Philadelphia. He finally returned to Pennsylvania. In death, Philip Clay did what he could not do in life. In death, Philip Clay finally returned to U.S. legally. Philip's drug addiction crimes may have warranted the punishment he received. But deportation to a country in which he had barely lived, unfortunately, as a matter of fact, Philip has company, a lot of company. Adam Crapser, too, another adoptee, was deported back to South Korea after having lived in U.S. 38 years. Adam was 3 years old when he and his older sister were found sitting there in an orphanage in Seoul, South Korea. 5 months later, they were adopted by a couple in the U.S. Their first family that adopted them fought viciously and punished the children frequently. Adam remembered being whipped and forced to sit in a dark basement. After 6 years, the couple decided they no longer wanted to stay married, nor wanted the children they had adopted. And the siblings were split up. Adam bounced between foster homes before landing with another family in Oregon. His new parents, Thomas and Dolly Crapser, had a house full of foster and adopted children, as many as 10 at a time. Their punishments, too, were frequent and even more brutal than his first adoptive parents. Dolly slammed the children's heads together and once hit him in the back of his head with a 2x4 after he had woken her up from her nap. Thomas duct taped the children, duct taped their mouths shut. He also burned Adam's hands and once broke his nose when Adam could not find Thomas's car keys. The state of Oregon ultimately charged this couple with dozens of child abuse, including rape, sexual abuse, and criminal mistreatments of children. They were convicted in 1992 on several counts of criminal mistreatments and assault. And Thomas was convicted on 1 count of sexual abuse. When Adam was 16, he got into an argument with Dolly over using the phone, and Thomas kicked him out of the house. He moved into a homeless shelter, then stayed with friends on their couches, and finally in his car. And one day, he broke into the Crapster's home in hopes of reclaiming some of his personal belongings. Police arrested him. He pleaded guilty to burglary and served 25 months in prison. Adam said, "I made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I'm not proud of it. I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. Since those early teens and difficult adult life, Adam has worked to get his life back on track. He married, became a full-time dad, and tried to settle into a long-term job. The problem was that, legally, he could not hold one. He could not hold a job because none of Crapster's adoptive parents, nor the adoption agency that brokered his arrival to the US, had ever bothered to file for his US citizenship. Every one of them failed to do the crucial thing for the best interest of the child, Adam. Now, after years of fighting and begging, he was finally able to get his adoption paperwork from Thomas Crapster. And in 2012, Adam applied for a green card. But these applications typically trigger a Department of Homeland Security background investigation, which in Adam's case turned up his old convictions. This criminal record that made him subject to deportation. On January 2015, he was detained, and on February 2016, INS charged him and locked him up, and 9 months later, in November 2016, Adam was separated from his wife and children and deported to Korea, where he knew nobody, where he did not speak the language. After his deportation there to Korea, in January 2019, he filed a lawsuit against the Korean government and the Holt Adoption Agency for violating his rights during his adoption process. And in May 2013, the Korean court found in Adam's favor and ordered Holt Adoption Agency to pay 100 million won, equivalent to $75,000 in damages. Adam now lives in Mexico, where his children and wife in the US can visit him much easier than all the way there in South Korea. Adoptee Mauricio Oviedo Soto, born December 11, 1979, was 8 months old when his mother, Ameles Oviedo Soto, met her future husband, Kurt Capelli, in Costa Rica in 1980. At the time, Kurt Capelli was a product engineer living there on a contracting assignment for a year, and he fell in love with Yamalet. When Mauricio was 16 months old, in May 1981, his mother brought him to Wisconsin to be with Kurt Capelli. 2 months later, they were married in Milwaukee. Mauricio was 6 years old, a judge in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, officially recognized his adoption. With the stroke of a pen, he became Mauricio Capelli, taking the surname of his new American father. Now, Mauricio enjoyed a typical suburban upbringing in the Midwest. He was a Cub Scout, played Little League baseball, and enjoyed the outdoors. He was the only adopted sibling of the 3 Capelli children. And like them, he was an American, or so everyone thought. He had a Social Security card and a document known as a Certificate of Birth Facts, issued by the state of Wisconsin. Nearly 32 years later, on March 12, 2018, Mauricio was deported to Costa Rica. Why, his whole family was residing here in the US. They were determined to find a way for him to return home. Through a network of connections, they reached out to a coyote who demanded 10 grand to bring their son back home. After extensive negotiations, they managed to lower the price to $4,000. And finally, Mauricio was on his way home. However, their hopes were dashed. Mauricio and his group were apprehended at the border. In a moment of desperation, the coyote instructed everyone to squat down while he made a dash in the opposite direction. When he realized they had been spotted by INS officials. As a result, adoptee Mauricio was deported a second time a few months later. As you've witnessed tonight, while some adoptees were fortunate enough to secure citizenship under the CCA, Child Citizenship Act, many were left behind. Condemning those left behind to living as second-class citizens. Adam's tireless efforts to navigate the bureaucratic hurdles and fight against deportations spurred a collective movement among adoptees. Together, we joined forces with advocates and allies in Congress to champion the Adoptee Citizenship Act bill, to amend the CCA and make citizenship retroactive to all adoptees. Congress has been introducing the ACA bill during its every 2-year congressional cycle since 2015. Last year marked a significant progress for our cause, as the ACA bill successfully passed the House. However, our momentum was halted in the Senate. This year, Adoptees for Justice members and allies are eagerly waiting for Congress to introduce the bill and continue our fight for justice. Now that we've explored the challenges and injustices faced by adoptees like Philip, Adam, and Mauricio, I'd like to bring the focus closer to home. My own adoption journey intersects with theirs in a way that underscores the urgent need for action and reform. I've experienced firsthand the consequences of this bureaucratic nightmare. Let me explain. Although I've worked and paid into Social Security since I was 17, Social Security Administration has denied my Medicare and will also deny my Social Security retirement a year from now. All because I cannot show them my original Social Security and green cards. However, getting replacement copy of my green card risks my deportation due to shoplifting convictions. Adoptees for Justice, the adoptees group that I am part of, has launched a California is Home Governor pardon petition for me and fellow adoptee Emily Warnecke. Finally, in the spirit of Toastmasters, what I've learned, every speech needs a powerful ending and a call to action. This is where my dear friends, fellow Toastmasters, esteemed guests, and potential signers, you and you can make a big difference. By supporting our governor's pardon petition, your signatures not only support my journey, but also contribute to building a more just and compassionate society, benefiting us all. Thank you for this opportunity to share my story and for your impactful participation. And I will be putting the petition sign-up links in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. That is an amazing, amazing story. One we had no idea about with you. And I think we're all feeling something in this. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And I know it must not be easy to share this story. Are there any questions or comments for Judy? I can't see the audience here. Oh, Alicia's our favorite Aussie from Australia, from Sydney area. Alicia.
Thank you very much, Judy. I can reflect on this, and also I understand exactly because I'm adopted myself, and I'm actually from what the Australians called the stolen generation from adoptees. So from the 1960s, late 1960s to the early 1980s, kids that were born unwedlock were stolen from their parents or taken from the parents by force and were put up for adoption. And I was actually part of that. It's a different sort of situation here, but we were not allowed to see our parents. We had a thing called a veto on our adoption and our birth certificate. So I didn't get my birth certificate until about 5 years ago, my actual first ever birth certificate. So that for me has been a journey, and thank you so much for sharing your story, because I understand the anger, and I'll be signing away on the dotted line for you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Connie, is there anyone in the audience that at BA wants to ask a question or have a comment for Judy?
What happened to Andy? Speak loud, I think. I got to know Andy and we didn't know
Somebody was asking about Andy.
what happened to Andy.
What happened to Andy?
And you heard that, Judy? Someone wanted to know what happened to Andy.
So what happened to Andy, Judy?
Andy? Oh, you mean Adam?
Adam.
Adam, I'm sorry.
Adam, okay.
My bad.
Adam won his lawsuit against the whole adoption agency that were instrumental in bringing him to the US. And he left Korea and moved to Mexico because he's that much closer to home, to US, where his family, his children and wife live. That way it's much easier for them to visit him there in Mexico than to go all the way to South Korea to visit him there. He's in his 40s now. Hoping to eventually to be able to come back home.
You have the mic? All right, I don't know how he's gonna get me to say what she wants me to.
Anyone else?
Are they?
Get close to Connie so she can hear you.
So again,
Get close to Connie so they can.
It sounds close to me.
there you go.
Now you can hear me, I bet.
Hi, Edwin.
Give me a thumbs up.
Hmm.
Hear me. You can hear me? Okay. This is called teamship here. You're going to actually introduce him. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I can.
Anyway, hold on. Let me finish here. Thank you, Judy.
Tag team.
And post the petition, and we look forward to hearing
Okay.
your next talk. Thank you very much. Let's hear it for Judy.
Does Rob have to bring things down here?
What?
Does Ed need to bring things down?
I don't. I
I
don't-
mean,
Okay.
Rob.
Okay, Connie and Tom, you have it.
All right,
Okay,
I think I'll just go ahead from here and then
okay. I don't
and then
know.
you'll come back, take over the rest.
Sorry.
All right, she put me on light duty today after my surgery, but we have a outstanding opportunity. I really am disappointed we didn't have more people, but whoever is here, maybe someone will save a life. We have a really special of our qualified speakers. Only one has ever achieved accredited speaker. And there's only about 80 or so in the world. So we are very lucky to have him here to share what he does for a profession, training people to save lives with his CPR training. And you'll have privy to that presentation of his. And when you walk out of here, who knows, you might just save someone's life. And even better than that, you might save mine sometime. Our next speaker, Ed Eddinghausen.
Thank you so much, Tom. I want to find out first, who here has been through one of my programs before? And if you were at my accredited speaker presentation, that counts. Okay. And first time in one of my presentations? Okay, so we have fresh meat. I mean, new faces. Well, for you that are here with me for the first time, first thing you should know is that this is a very serious program. All joking aside, as you know, CPR is about life and death. Now, typically in my program, about half of the first timers do not pass. I do have the reputation for being one of the toughest CPR instructors in all of Southern California. Also, the 125 question test at the very end. I'm so sorry, but it doesn't exist. No such thing. As long as you are all participating, then you're going to come away with a CPR skill. What I'm going to ask you to do, those that are here in the live audience, if you make your way to my left, which is your right, there are mannequins. I need you to come over here and get an adult and an infant mannequin. Come on over. I'll help you with these. So just reach inside of any of these body bags, and each of them have babies and adults. So adult and a baby for each of you. There you go. Yes, instant family. There you are.
Thank you.
Yes. And then if you want to come down in the first two rows, that would be great. I picked out a special one just for Tom, Captain America. All right, let's get down to business. The first thing on the scene You want to make sure it is safe for number one. Who is number one? You are always number one. So if it's safe for number one, then you go to number two. Number two would be your little friend. We're going to start out with the bigger mannequin. That's the adult mannequin. And if you want, you can name your friend. My guy's name is Charlie. You want to check for response to a simple technique called tap and shout, just like it sounds. Hey, Charlie, you okay? Wake up. If there is no response, then we have an emergency. And in an emergency, somebody better go call 911. So before you do any CPR, talk to the 3 people on the scene, and then it's on to the action steps: airway, breathing, circulation. All 6 steps together, 1, 2, 3, ABC, make up the CPR formula. And here's where we come to my absolute favorite part of the whole program. This is where all of you get to jump up and sing the Jackson 5 ABC song. No? Okay, good. Got a taker over here. Now, some of you, I think I know why you're hesitant. You're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Ed, I don't really think those ABCs helped Michael Jackson on the day he died, did they? No, certainly they did not. Not with Dr. Murray doing his one-hand CPR on the bed, waking out to call 911 while he was texting with his stripper girlfriend. No wonder they couldn't save Michael. Now, you think about Michael Jackson, of course, you think about music. Have you seen the latest and personal musical devices? They just came on the market recently. You probably haven't seen them here in Loma Linda. I brought one to show you. It's called a cassette tape player. Hold on. Inside, there is a very special memory card. You can actually squeeze 60 minutes of music onto each side. You can get these amazing devices with their memory cards at all the high-end electronic stores like Radio Shack and Circuit City. And of course, the best one of all, Montgomery Ward's. Okay, obviously those stores have been out of business for a few years, and this device has been obsolete for a few decades. And the ABC sequence of CPR is now also a thing of the past. It is no longer the ABC sequence, it is now the CAB sequence. We actually start by skipping airway and breathing, going straight to circulation. In fact, people who work outside of the healthcare professions, for the most part, we just tell them to skip breathing if you're not comfortable with it and do hands-only compression CPR. But I'm going to suggest that you do the breathing. And even for the healthcare providers, it's now optional. So if you look at your victim and you're thinking to yourself, no, I'm not going to put my mouth on those little hips, then you can skip the breathing altogether. Totally up to you. So skipping to circulation, where do we check for Charlie's circulation? Where do we find a pulse? Good thing you chose the carotid artery under his fancy bow tie. Since he has no other pulses, look at my little friend. He's a third of the man that he used to be. Always check their pulse using how many thumbs? No thumbs. Why not use your thumb to check their pulse? You might be feeling your own pulse, fingers only. The best way to find the pulse, start with the fingers at the center of their neck and slide into the groove. You want to find the beat? Get into the groove. And here we are in the groove, checking the pulse about 5 to 10 seconds. Now, 5 to 10 seconds, that's not very long at all, except in an emergency. And then 5 to 10 seconds will drag on forever. And there's no pulse. Well, no pulse is telling us what is not working here. Then let's work on his heart. So we shift our focus to the chest. Another change in CPR, we no longer have to do the old trace, space, place technique. That's the old way. The new way, simply place the heel of your hand right between the victim's nipples in the center of their chest. Using 2 hands, compress 2 inches and give 2 ventilations. So far, can anyone tell me what would be our key number so far? 2. The winner in the very back there. But the compressions are a lot more than dose. Those of you who have had CPR training before, you remember how many compressions in your last class? Well, it used to be for adults, we did 15 compressions with 2 breaths, and for a child or infant, we did 5 compressions with 1 breath. Well, those numbers are now obsolete. It's now just one set of numbers for all victims, 30 compressions with 2 ventilations. Now, the numbers in CPR actually are pretty easy to count. You can certainly count your 2 hands, and you can count the 2 breaths, and even the 30 compressions, you can count that. But how do you count that compression depth of 2 inches? Technically, it's 2 to 2.4, but just think 2. How do you count 2 inches of compression depth? Well, you can't count it. You just have to guess. And when you're performing CPR, you might find yourself going, am I going too deep or not deep enough? If you're not sure, you better play it safe. And what do you think? Go deep or back off? In CPR, deeper is better. You're right. It is much better to go deep, move that blood around. Better that than to back off and not get enough circulation. And when you put it into perspective, CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, that's just a fancy way for us to say heart, lungs, restart. You only perform CPR because someone's heart, lungs need restarting. Okay. I have a difficult question coming next. Do not feel bad if you don't know the answer. We have a person laying here. That person is not breathing and has no pulse. The sophisticated medical term to describe their condition in one single word would be brilliant. I'm going to guess those of you who knew the answer was dead, it's because either you were studying for this course all night last night, or for some of you, probably because your last CPR instructor, that guy must have been some kind of a genius. And as you remember, wasn't that guy also quite striking? For a 50-something bald guy? Extra credit? Okay, that's just going too far, too far. So it's a dead person. Now, since we only perform CPR in people that are not breathing, have no pulse, we just established no breathing, no pulse is dead. Well, that would mean that we perform CPR not on the living, only on the dead, which sounds terrible. But when you grasp that very simple concept, doesn't it make CPR a whole lot easier? If you're only doing CPR on people that are already dead, tell me, how badly can you screw that up? You really can't. Remember, they're already dead. Worst outcome, they're just going to stay dead. Nothing you could actually do to them would make them double dead. And if you were to check dictionary.com right now, you will not find the words deader or deadest. No such words. So if you're not sure about depth, always go deeper. Now, sometimes people get a little confused and hung up on this thing about death because they're thinking, well, if they're dead, how is it we can bring them back? Well, I think the best way to explain that is a movie. Remember that great movie from the 90s, Princess Bride? Great movie. So Prince Humperdinck banished Wesley to the pit of despair. And in the pit of despair, they sucked the life out of Wesley, literally. And so his friends took him to Miracle Max. Miracle Max, he's dead. We need a miracle. Miracle Max checked. He said, he's mostly dead, which means he's slightly alive. When someone is not breathing, has no pulse, they're mostly dead. But if there's brain activity, they're still slightly alive. That's called clinical death. Now, if there's someone that has no pulse, no breathing, no brain activity, that's called brain death or biological death, and they're not coming back from that. Well, if you brought someone back that was brain dead, what did you just create? A zombie. We don't need zombies. All right. So you understand that about the death? Okay. Now, there's one more number we need to deal with, and that's the rate of compression. CPR is now about deep, fast compressions. We need to go fast, get that blood moving. It's a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. Sounds great on paper, but in real life, how do you possibly figure out 100 to 120 beats per minute? There is an easy way. Remember that great disco song from the 70s, Staying Alive? That song has 103 beats per minute. So if you ever have to perform CPR, just start singing Staying Alive out loud. It will not only keep you on the beat, but it also sends a beautiful message to your victim's family. Now, in 1980, Queen came out with a great song, a little faster. You've all heard the song. Another one bites the dust. It's a great song, except for CPR. That's a terrible song for CPR. I think the best song for CPR is the one I learned as a kid, and maybe some of you did as well. Do any of you remember going on a field trip on the big yellow bus, singing that #1 hit song with your fellow classmates, 99 bottles of... Some of you went to the cool school, I can tell. I went to a parochial school. In my prim and proper parochial school, we were not allowed to say the B word. If we said the B word, we got sent to the principal, got our mouth washed out with SOAP. In my school, we sang root beer or chocolate milk or sody pop. Now, some of you may not even be familiar with that song, and I would be more than happy to sing it for you, except that I can't. Well, not only can I not carry a tune, but I am no longer allowed to sing that song as a solo in the CPR class. It happened almost 4 years ago now. It was March of 2020. Do you recall what happened in March of 2020? We got a visit from COVID, and when COVID showed up, everything closed down. My business is 99% dental office CPR, and all the dental offices closed down. I was out of business for 3 full months. But after only 2 short weeks, Charlie and his little buddies, they got bored and they went to look for another job. Now, I'm not going to promote where they're still moonlighting on the weekends, but perhaps, ladies, you recognize the uniform? And when they got their new job, they joined the union. They got 3 wishes in the union contract. Wish number 1, to have these cool bow ties. Wish number 2, to have these cool earbuds. Wish number 3 was I could no longer sing the cool CPR solos in the class, in the contract. But you know what the contract doesn't say? It doesn't say that we can't do a group sing-along. So that's what we're going to do. So everybody grab your mannequin up on your lap, 2 hands together on the center of the chest, 30 and 2, ready, set, sing. 99 bottles of root on the wall, 99 bottles of root on the wall. You take one down, you pass it around. 98 bottles of root on everybody. 98 bottles of root on the wall, 98 bottles of root on the wall. You take one down, you pass it around. 97 bottles of root on the wall. Good job, give yourselves a hand. Well done, well done. But you know what? I think we got so caught up in the moment, caught up in the song, that we may have forgot to do something important in CPR. At least I forgot. Were any of you counting those 30 compressions? Someone in this room, though, was actually keeping track. You wouldn't know how to look at him. But my good friend Charlie here, this guy is no dummy. Charlie figured out that when you get through 2 bottles of root beer, or whatever IPA you've been drinking, Joey, it's exactly 30 compressions. We started at 99 bottles. We stopped at 97 bottles. That's 2 bottles, which equals 30 compressions. After 30 compressions, what comes next? 2 breaths. So 2 bottles followed by 2 breaths. Before you get the 2 breaths, be sure to use the head tilt chin lift maneuver, because you all know that an unconscious victim will automatically swallow their tongue, right? No, you're not going to swallow that. They don't swallow their tongue, but their tongue can block their airway because of gravity. In 2 words, can anyone tell me what does gravity do? 2 words, gravity, anybody? I like that. What was that? Tom, where'd you learn to talk like that? From my course. Exactly right. Tom said it sucks, and that's true. Gravity sucks. So the tongue, but what was your scientific formula?
Actually, the acceleration of gravity is 32 feet per second squared.
32 feet per second squared, which is pretty cool because 32. So I'm going to remember that. Okay. See, I'm learning something. Okay. Yeah. All right. 32 seconds per he knows, because I have attention deficit disorder. So if I get distracted, I'm like, oh, what was the last thing I was talking about? I got lost. Yeah, at least in my problems. Thank you. My good friend right up here. We've never met, but I can already tell we're going to get along just fine. All right. And again, what was the last thing I was just talking about? Gravity, it sucks. Okay, there we go. All right. So the tongue falls, blocks the area. Now the problem, we use the head tilt chin lift maneuver. Now, if you're not quite sure how that process actually works with the head tilt chin lift, this picture demonstrates it quite well. This shows an individual with a blocked airway. When we use the head tilt chin lift, it goes from this to this. Nice wide open air passage. Again, closed airway, head tilt chin lift, open airway. After you've opened the airway, and before you give those 2 breaths, be sure that you pinch their nose closed. Why do you need to pinch their nose before you give the breaths? That's right. Plus, if you don't pinch their nose, it's not good. Oh, I know. That's disgusting. Hold on. Just a couple days ago, someone taught me a really cool word. The new word I learned is mocos. Let me see if I can recall how to say it in a sentence. I believe it goes something like this. No quiera mocos en su cachete. Now, I believe that means no boogers on your cheek, or I just said something really nasty in Spanish. I don't know. No, we're not going to actually do the mouth to mannequin breathing. Since COVID, they've asked that we simulate breathing. So for the CPR program here, just say the word breathe. All right, so here we go. Tilt, pinch, 2 breaths. Ready? Breathe, breathe. If the breaths were successful, what should have just occurred? Just rise. If that didn't happen, that's not a problem for us because we have a little rule. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Remember, the most common airway obstruction for the unconscious victim is usually their own tongue. Didn't work first time, simply re-tilt a little further back and try it again. Pinch those, big mouth, 2 breaths. Breathe, breathe. Were the breaths successful this time? Yes. And that would be 1 complete cycle of CPR. 30 compressions followed by 2 ventilations. We need to continue to perform CPR for 2 minutes. It takes 5 cycles to make 2 minutes. How many cycles have we performed so far? Remember, it's a short course we're doing today. We've done how many cycles so far? Short course. We've done how many cycles so far? 5, exactly. So you all agree it's been 5 cycles in? All right, let's check the pulse. And there's no pulse. You know why there's no pulse? Yeah. Because cheaters never prosper, Rob. Didn't your daddy teach you that? Well, there's no pulse, of course, because you're right, your victim is still dead. So now what? You did a great job at CPR for 2 minutes, but he's still dead. What are we going to do now? Do it again, another 2 minutes and check the pulse. No pulse, another 2 minutes, check the pulse. No pulse, another 2 minutes and check the pulse. What is our ultimate goal here? What is it we're trying to accomplish with our CPR? Well, the ultimate goal is to undead them, revive them, restart heart, lungs, bring them back to life. That's the goal, the hope, the dream of CPR. Unfortunately, that's not reality. In real life, you're right, more often than not, CPR is about buying our victim precious time until what? Till the emergency medical services arrive on the scene. Anything positive that happens in the meantime, those are extras. Perform CPR and find a pulse, that's a bonus. Pulse and breathing, double bonus. Pulse, breathing, and they're conscious, you just hit the jackpot. But don't count on that. So no pulse would mean more CPR. On the other hand, if there is a pulse, is this a good thing? It's a great thing because the pulse tells us what's working again. The heart. And help me with our special rule for this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That definitely applies in CPR. Heart's working just fine, leave it alone. But we still need to go back and reassess what? Breathing. Now, the heart did stop once. Certainly, it can stop at any moment. Keep your fingers on that pulse. When you find the beat, keep the beat. Open the airway, check on his breathing, and no, not breathing. Okay, he has a pulse. Is that good or bad? It's good. Not breathing, good or bad? Bad. That's bad. So we're going to shift gears into rescue breathing mode, which, remember, you can opt out of breathing if you choose, but if you're going to go to the rescue breathing mode, it's 1 full breath every 5 seconds. Again, an adult has a pulse, isn't breathing, it's 1 full breath every 5 seconds. While you're doing the breathing, fingers stay put, and between each breath, you should turn your cheek to the side. Why is that recommended between each breath?
So you can hear them.
So you can hear them breathing, yes, and you can see the chest rise and fall. Very good. but it's also a little teeny reason. You're trying so hard to save your victim, and for all your efforts, they will show their appreciation by doing what 50% of the time? Blowing chunks in your direction. So now we go from mocos to vomito. Now, if your little amigo is toasting his tacos to you, would you prefer his stomach contents land in your mouth or in your ear? Okay, some of you, I can tell you're holding up for option C, aren't you, Connie? Connie's going, no, Ed, don't we get a third choice? Like none of the above? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a mouth-to-mask device, or better yet, a bag valve type of device, sure, use those. But without those, be ready to take one for the team. And if you're taking it for the team, which would you prefer? In your mouth, in your ear? Or how about that option C on the outside of your cheek? Yeah, let's go with the option C. So fingers on the pulse, tilt the head, pinch nose, breathe, turn and count. 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Breathe. 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. The breathing is back. Heart's working. Lungs are working. What is there left for you to fix? What's left to fix?
They have to be alert.
Nothing you say. Look,
What if you break
up to this point, hold on, up to this point, you've done quite well. You took your guy with the fancy tie that was dead. You guys heart working, you guys lungs working. Very proud of you all for that. But how can you people, you Toastmasters, as smart as you all are, how do you miss this? What about this poor guys? Okay, you're right. There's nothing left here to fix. Your job in CPR is a simple job. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, especially emotionally, but really it's a simple task. We start the heart, we start the lungs. You just did that. So now we're going to hang out with our newfound friend and continue to wait for the emergency medical services. Of course, what stopped once could always stop again. So we need to continue to monitor their heart and their lungs. And let's not forget, a little surprise, can your little friend still come up with any second? More chunks. If he's on his back and he vomits, what major complication could occur? Yes, could choke. In the medical field, it's referred to as aspirate. We don't want that. So we need to turn a victim onto their side. Now, very important. Is it their right side or their left side? Which side?
See,
Well,
the heart-
Joey asked, does it matter? It matters to me. I'll tell you what, if my friend Charlie starts blowing more chunks, which side do I not want his nasty mouth to be aiming at? That's right, because I'm looking for numero me.
Turn up.
Away, that's right. Now, technically, it actually is preferred you place them onto their left side. But again, I'm looking out for myself on this one. So turn them side away from you. Now, keep in mind, unlike your little buddies on your laps, you're going to find that most real people do tend to come with, well, besides clothing. What else do most people have that these guys seem to be missing? Arms and legs. Nothing gets past you people. So when you move a real person with limbs, it's going to help you to move one of each. The arm that's on the opposite side of you, grab a hold of that arm and place it right up next to their head, sort of like that. And then the leg that's closest to you, grab that leg and cross it over the opposite leg. It's not going to help your victim, but it will make it a little easier for you to move them. So their arm is up, their leg is over, support the head, neck, grab them by the hip, turn them which way? Side away. So go ahead and turn your mannequin, your victim onto their side. Now, what would be the exception? When would you not want to turn a victim onto their side? If you suspect spinal trauma. Although I asked that once, when do we not turn them on their side? One guy said, well, what if you're like at the top of a steep hill? Oh, you're right. Yeah, you don't want to. That's a good reason not to. Actually, there are 4 situations you shouldn't turn them on their side. If you do suspect spinal trauma, if you are at the top of that hill or the top of that stairwell or the edge of that cliff. Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie. Keep breathing. We'll catch you at the bottom. In the meantime, we're going to maintain this recovery position while we continue to monitor what are the 2 functions that are now working once again.
So, heartbeat
That's right.
and
Breathing. Breathing and circulation, heart and lungs. How do you know his lungs are now working? How can you tell?
You look, you'll see them.
Chest will rise and fall with each breath. That's how we see their breathing. And how do we see their circulation?
By this.
Color, I'll give that to you. But you're right, you don't see circulation, you feel circulation. Although I asked that very question once, how do you see the circulation? You know what one wise guy said? With a scalpel. For the rest of the program, I could not make eye contact with that guy. Well, it was a surgeon. They use their scalpel a lot. No, if you could see your victim's circulation, if the blood is spurting from their body, I warned you, the edge of that cliff would be too dangerous. So you see their breathing, you feel their circulation, and then you wait. And you wait and you wait and you wait for professional rescuers. It's like forever. In a real emergency, seconds will feel like minutes, and every minute will feel like an hour, and you will feel like there's got to be something else to do. There is one more very important step. Waiting for the paramedics to arrive on scene, the last thing you need to do would be, finish things off by stuffing M&Ms in the victim's ears. M&Ms in their ears is the newest step. Read the book. Okay, Tom, don't look at me like that, okay? I made it. Oh. All right, well, Tom's going, when he finishes, I'm going to Google that. I'm not sure. Well, let me explain in the book of Ed the two M's. The two important things that we are now doing. We are maintaining their recovery position while we continue to monitor their breathing and circulation. Maintain, monitor, M&M the victim. Now, as silly as it is, with me stuffing these big old M&Ms in the mannequin's ear, this might just help you in a real CPR event. Because in real CPR, when do we think? We don't. It's over and done. For the most part, CPR won't be coming from here. Most of CPR comes from where? Here and here. Trust your gut instincts, put your heart and soul into it, and hang in there. In real CPR, are we going to make mistakes? Sure, we might, but the beauty of CPR, close is good enough. You do not have to be perfect for CPR to work. Just hang in there. Don't give up on the victim. Now, when we take the two M's and flip them upside down, what two letters do we have now? WW. In this case, those W's could stand for wait and watch. Very good. Although you'd be surprised how often people suggest Weight Watchers. I don't agree. No. Look at our friend Charlie. Look at the poor man who's already lost. He's gone from a 6-pack to a 3-pack. The ribs are poking out, lost both arms, both legs. How much more weight can that man lose? In one class, one young guy was really confused about those two W's. He thought they actually stood for watch and wallet. Now, in his defense, remember, we are working with people that are already dead. I'm thinking, dead guy, for all your hard work, he'd probably want you to have his watch and wallet since he may not be needing them anymore. So as long as nobody is around to see, I do believe the watch and wallet belong to you. Go ahead, take them. But be ready because look who just showed up. It's the cops. Hey, where's the victim's watch and wallet and ring? Gee, officers, I don't know, but if you look on the hillside right there, because when he was rolling down that hill, I did see something come out of his back pocket, and I saw the watch and the ring come off too. It's up on the hill over there, I swear. Now, if there are two of you, it's easier because you work together as a team. One to compress, one to ventilate. For two rescuers, what would be the numbers?
It would still be 32 and 2.
Exactly the same, 32. Now, you know the best thing about having two rescuers? Each one will take on a single task. When they're finished, each one will take home a single treasure. All right, here's a tough question for you. What if your victim is not an adult, it is a child? What would be the numbers for children? Exactly the same, 32. Now, it is possible in the heat of the moment, you might forget the importance of numbers 32. Not a problem. Just look for your good friend, because I understand in this very room, someone just had a birthday and just turned 32. Right, Connie? Yes, of course. Now, Connie, it seems like when you were in my class 2 years ago, you'd also just turned 32. And then there was the twos before that, two before. Two. Young lady, I believe you have been turning 32 since, since way back when Rob and I had hair. And that's been a few years, Rob, right? A few, yeah. But it's possible in the heat of the moment, you need Connie to tell you her age. She won't be ready to do that because once again, she'll be out there celebrating her 32nd birthday. You all know how Connie is, big time party girl. So if Connie's not around to tell you her age, you can always look to your victim for that special number. Because looking in the mouth of everyone here, if you have all your molars, you know how many teeth are in there? Right back to that same number again, 32. Now that works great for us here in Southern California because we take a lot of pride in our pearly whites. But what if you're traveling cross country to some place like Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Northern California? Yeah, Northern California, it's more like 1, 2, 3 up on top and 2 on the bottom. 3 and 2 in Northern California. Look, I can make fun of Northern California because, well, I was born there and raised there. Now, a little trivia for you. Did you know Northern California, you know what the number one pickup line is in Northern California?
I'm from South.
Hey, cuz, nice tooth. Yeah, sure. A little trivia for you. Do you know Northern California is actually where they invented the toothbrush and toothpaste and toothpicks? If they had invented those here in Southern California, they'd have simply named them teeth brush, teeth paste, and teeth picks. Again, I can make fun of people from Northern California. I was born in Sacramento, grew up in the foothills of the Sierras, got married in Northern California. My lovely bride would be here tonight with us, but well, she couldn't find her teeth. You know, Northern California. Don't tell Martha I said that. All right. Okay. So 32. So numbers in CPR are pretty easy. We got that 32. So we know for one rescuer, it's 30 and 2. For 2 rescuers, 32. For a child or infant, it's 30 and 2. Right? Make sense? Okay. Now, you all know that if you perform perfect CPR, no mistakes, you will save your dead victim every single time. You know that, right? But some of you are shaking your heads. No, you tell me you didn't know that? People, I only have so much time. Tom's giving me here tonight. You got to do your homework. Read your CPR material. You'll find out what I just said is absolutely a big fat lie. No, you can't say them every single time. Remind me, please, what very special kind of people do we perform CPR on?
Dead.
Dead kind. If you're performing CPR on someone that's dead, the paramedics arrive on scene, your dead guy jumps up, runs over, greets them at the door. What just happened? A miracle! You just resurrected someone from the dead. And you know what? 2 very special groups that makes our friend a part of now? He's now part of the Grateful Dead as well as the Walking Dead. Okay, I know. Both those jokes are really lame, which means when we do this again in 2 years, you're going to hear them both again. But most of the time, the paramedics arrive on scene, they come in the door, and what do they find on the floor? Most of the time, dead person. Does that mean that our CPR was just a big waste of time? Not at all. We bought time. Okay, so we didn't restart their heart and lungs this time, but what did we do? We got air into their lungs. We kept their oxygenated blood circulating throughout their body, and that is exactly what CPR is meant to do. Buy time. When the professional rescuers arrive on scene, they will continue what we have started and step it up. Along with the CPR, they'll intubate, medicate, defibrillate, transport our victim to the hospital. But even with all their hard work, still, most people do not survive CPR. The best success with CPR is with young people, and that's only a 40% survival rate. So 10 kids getting CPR on average out of the 10, how many are not going to make it? 6 out of 10 will not survive. But wait, it gets worse because the majority of times that CPR is performed, it's not performed on those that are younger. It's performed on those that are older, much, much older than 32. Connie, you're fine. You're okay. You're okay. And when the victim's age goes up, victim survival rates go down to measly 5%. That means if we now have 10 older victims all getting CPR with only the 5% success rate, out of our 10 older victims, how many of them are going to survive? Yeah, look at our friend Charlie, half of one. You would need at least 20 full-size victims just to get one single survival, and there's only a 5% success rate. But wait, it gets even worse. Because your victim has only one chance in 20. Is this most likely going to be some stranger out there that you have never met or someone that you know and care about? Think about your typical day. Today, for example, when you woke up this morning, where were you? Okay, if you have to think about your answer, he's going, well, Ed, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember. I was at home. I'm just trying to remember whose home was it? Well, of course, yes. You were home. You were there with your family, most of you. You woke up. You maybe went to work or did some other activity. You're here with us here tonight with people that you know. So you really do spend most of your time around the same people, right? People at home, people at work, people at various clubs, organizations. You spend a lot of time around people that you know and tolerate. No. I can tell here at the District 12 Toastmasters Speakers Bureau, you're just all a big bunch of happy, great, you just love each other. Group hug. Or maybe group therapy. Speaking of therapy, I just have to say, I am so very proud of the progress made by this man right here. Tom, you can barely see the twitch anymore. It's almost gone. A little bit more of your vitamins. You'll be fine. But there is something we can now do that can boost our victim survival rates from 1 in 20 all the way up to 1 in 3 by adding just one extra step. Does anybody know what that one extra step would be?
Narcan.
Oh, if it's a drug issue, it could be, yeah. But no, this one, it's a device, actually. Defibrillator, exactly right, young lady. The greatest thing in CPR nowadays would be the AED, which stands for Automated External Defibrillator. Now, you may not have access to an AED where you are at. So if not, well, who's on the way? Yes, the emergency medical services, when they arrive, what do they bring? AED. In the meantime, just keep on performing CPR. Now, if you were at a place that actually did have an AED, by the way, do you know there's only one type of facility required by state law to have AEDs in California? Airports, you might think airports, good, or you might think hospitals and prisons. They are required by federal mandate, but by state mandate, only one type of facility must have AEDs. Schools, you would think, would be a good idea. And there are states that require this in schools, Washington, New York, New Jersey, other states. Now, the one place that our California lawmakers decided must have AEDs, where's the place that people go on purpose, maybe a couple times a week to elevate their heart rates as high as possible? That's right. So if you're working out at the health club and someone collapses, you call 911 and you get to the defibrillator. It's by the front desk. Hurry. While you're waiting, you start CPR. Once the AED arrives, we hook them up. Now, they all work pretty much the same way. By the way, this is a training AED, so it's sort of miniaturized. So usually more about this size. So what's the first thing we should do with this machine? Well, probably open up the protective case. Sometimes it's a soft carry case, sometimes it's a hard case, but open the case. What's the next thing to do with this machine? Yes, push the green button, turn it on. We just wait and play it by ear.
If the patient is a child, press the child button.
This one is equipped with a child button. Don't need that. Adult.
Remove clothing from the patient's chest.
Well, Charlie's in his work uniform, so we're good. We're good.
And apply pads onto patient's bare skin.
You notice the pads
Apply
have
pads
pictures.
As shown
The
in the
pictures show you where to place the pads. These pads even show you for a child, center of chest, center of back.
Apply pads
Now,
as
it'll
shown
repeat
in the
this
picture.
over and over till we do it. So let's go ahead and apply the pads. And
Remove packet
the
and
picture
apply
is,
the patient's
it's a
favorite skin
target area. You don't have to be bullseye in the very center.
pad as shown
Again,
in the
it'll repeat
picture.
it until we do it. So anywhere in that general area of the right shoulder, press it on
Remove
firmly.
Press pads firmly on.
And this pad shows lower left
Apply
rib
pads as
cage.
shown in the picture.
Press it on firmly.
Press pads firmly on skin.
Once the pads are properly in place, like the diagram
Do not
shows,
touch the patient. Analyzing heart
it'll
rhythm.
then automatically go into the EKG analyze
Do
mode.
not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm.
Got it?
Shock advised.
Mhm.
Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear.
Clear.
Press the flashing.
See that
button.
flashing red triangle with a little lightning bolt?
Shock
Make sure
button.
no one's touching them. Clear and shock.
Shock delivered.
Mhm.
Begin CPR.
And at this point, what you would not do is what I just did. When you push the AED button on, it remains on until the EMS arrive to take over. When you put the pads on your victim, pads remain on the victim until the EMS arrive and remove them. Now you might think, well, Ed, if we shock them and then we find a pulse, well, of course, in that situation, take the pads off. But tell me, is it possible? My good friend Charlie was in ventricular fibrillation. That's where the two lower chambers of the heart, the ventricles are just quivering. It's like it's a muscle spasm. And the point of the shock is to take that muscle spasm and cause the heart to contract and then hopefully go back to a normal rhythmic beat. Is it possible we reestablish normal rhythm with Charlie's heart and suddenly Charlie goes back into that VFib muscle spasm again? It does happen. Unfortunately for my friend Charlie, once I found a pulse, I turned it off, the pads off, pads are stuck to the carpet. Pads are no good now. Pads remain in place, AD remains on until the EMS arrive. All right? Any questions with the AED?
You have to have some type of training for it. We just got it.
That's exactly right.
Actually,
The great thing about an AED is we call it monkey proof because pretty much all you do is what the voice commands tell you to do. If you do what it tells you, it's pretty much foolproof because the machine makes all the decisions. You just do what it says. Now, when I pushed the AED off, what actually should have happened is I would leave it on. Now, some AEDs will go silent for 2 minutes. So you go back to do your CPR, 30 compressions, 2 ventilations, 5 times. And then after 2 minutes are up, it'll come back on, say, analyzing heart rhythm, do not touch the patient. Some AEDs will actually walk you through the CPR. It'll say, place the heel of one hand on the center of the chest, place the other hand on top, compress the chest 2 inches starting now. And we just got this change in 2024. At that point, it'll start singing 99 bellows will rip on the wall, 99 bellows. No, it gives you a little metronome, little beep, 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 beep. How many beeps? 30. After 30 beeps, it'll say, breathe, breathe, beep, beep, beep. All right, so that's, and after 2 minutes, it'll cycle back around, analyze, if necessary, shock them. It'll allow you to shock them every 2 minutes if they need, but you only will shock them if the machine tells you they need to be shocked. And if you push that shock button and they don't need to be shocked, it's not going to shock them. It won't let you. All right. I have a question for all of you. When in the CPR process would you actually use the AED on your victim? Now, the obvious answer would be, well, Ed, when there's no pulse, when they're dead. Yeah, that would be true. But actually, specifically when you use the AED, depends on if it's a witnessed or non-witnessed arrest. For example, I'm talking to all of you right now, and suddenly I collapse. Did you witness it? Yeah, that's witness arrest. Versus, now this is maybe something that's more likely with most of my clients, dental offices, but in a dental office, maybe they have someone in an operatory. Oh, you know, I've got to take care of something, just a couple minutes, I'll be right back. They go about their business, 10 minutes later, oh, I got to check on my patient. They go check on their patient, they're in full arrest, but they didn't witness it. Nobody witnessed it, okay? So that's non-witness arrest. So if it's a witnessed arrest situation, I just collapsed, and anytime you find there's no response, hey, come on, Ed, wake up, we want to finish up and go home. There's no response. Call 911 and get that defibrillator on the wall, hurry. And checking the pulse, there's no pulse, you're in position, just about to start chest compressions, and right then someone runs in with that defibrillator, you can temporarily skip the CPR steps and go straight to defibrillation, temporarily. Now, if it's the non-witness arrest victim, before we hook the AED up to them, we've got to get some oxygen into their system, get it moving around because we don't know how long they've been without oxygen. So we're going to do CPR for how many minutes would you think might be good? How many minutes do you think might be good? 2 minutes. How'd you get that? Yes, 2 minutes CPR, then defibrillation. That make sense?
It's the legal ramification. It's using the defibrillator.
You're fully protected by the Good Samaritan Act. Good Samaritan Act says if you perform CPR and any of the techniques associated with CPR, as long as you stay within the scope of training, then you're good. Anything bad that happens, and bad things can happen, like you could crack the rib, you could fracture sternum, you could puncture a lung. But it all comes back to the one basic premise. We're doing CPR on what kind of people? Dead kind. It always comes back to that. Anything you can do, whatever happens to them, you're not going to make them double dead. All right, so good question. Okay. Let me just maybe drive that point home a little bit further with defibrillator. Let's say you're all through here, you go out to your car, you're going to start your car up. Try it again. You know what's really weird is that you have an electric car. Got to think about that one. Yeah, I saw Tom's new red Tesla. So yeah, so it doesn't make that noise. All right, but anyway, so you know it's not working. So you got to call AAA, right? You're out of gas. You know why you're out of gas? Because someone forgot where he slept for the night and barely made it on fumes here. So you call AAA. They show up. They've got a can of gas and a set of jumper cables. And you need them both, of course, but you need them in the right sequence. Which one comes first, gas or cables? Yeah. Anyone that's ran out of gas would know gas comes first. Victim has been without gas, oxygen for who knows how long. Before we try to jumpstart the heart, we got to gas them up first. Does that analogy make sense? I'm glad it does because I'm quite proud of it. I made it up myself, but I'm always a little concerned it could backfire. Here's my big worry. It's a real emergency. Hey, come on, wake up, wake up. There's no response. Call 911 and get a defibrillator. You don't have, it's okay. Get me jumper cables and a can of gas. The gas goes in here, jumper cables, one right there, one right there. The bald CPR guy taught me. Just do it. Now, another situation you might deal with. What if you give your victim those initial 2 breaths and they do not work? Not a problem for us, not a problem because we know the rule. If at first you don't succeed, remember the most common airway obstruction for the unconscious is usually their own tongue. Didn't work first time, retilt, try it again. What if on your second attempt after the retilt, you still cannot get air from lips to lungs? What's the problem? Lodged obstruction. Now there is a technique we can use on people with a blocked airway. Starts with letter H. We call it the what maneuver? Heimlich maneuver. But you know, all the years I've been teaching CPR, I've heard it pronounced differently. I've heard people pronounce Heimlich as hemlock. No, I don't think it's a good idea to give your poor choking victim poison. Stay away from the hemlock. I've heard people pronounce Heimlich as Heineken. That makes sense if you know the rule. Have you heard the rule? Save a bestie, share a brewski. It's a rule, Tom, look it up. But the oddest pronunciation I've heard is one woman. She kept mispronouncing it. And I got to tell you, it was getting embarrassing. I had to bring it to her attention. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, you are not pronouncing that term correctly. Heimlich. It's pronounced with the letter M in the middle. The way you keep mispronouncing that word with letters N-D in the middle, well, it's just in bad taste. We're just going to move on, please. Heimlich with the M. Speaking of M, it was coming this, see, that one takes a little while sometimes to get that one. All right, I got it. Speaking of M, it was this coming May, it'll be 9 years since this event occurred. There was an 87-year-old woman having dinner at the retirement home with her friends. She started to choke. One of her dinner companions slowly rose out of his seat, went behind her, and performed the Heimlich maneuver. Now you might think, that doesn't sound unusual, Ed. Well, the guy who did it was 96 years old and just so happened to be Dr. Henry Heimlich, the man that introduced that technique to us 50 years ago in 1974. Even more amazing, it was the first time in his life he had the opportunity to use his procedure to try to save someone. True story, true story. Sadly, that's where our true story takes a little turn. Remember our sweet 87-year-old great grandma? She croaked. She didn't make it. No, she survived. Rob's going, that's a terrible story. No, she did survive, but sadly, 6 months later, guess who actually did pass away? Dr. Heimlich. He choked to death. No, he didn't. I made that up. He was 96. He died of old age. Wouldn't that be the worst irony? The doctor invents a technique to save choking people. The day he's choking, no one's there to save him. Nobody's 96. And Rob, dry your tears. I told you, great grandma's fine. She's fine. Now, what if right now someone came bursting in the auditorium, bursting through the doors, just coughing their lungs out? Well, obviously, one of you had better jump up, perform the Heimlich maneuver, right? No. Why not? Because if they're coughing, what are they getting into their lungs? They're forcing air in their lungs if they're coughing. Best thing you can do for someone that's coughing forcefully would be encourage them. You're doing great. Keep coughing, but please back up, please. Thank you. It's when they're not able to cough. When they're grabbing their throat, they can't cough. They can't get any air. Maybe they're turning color. They're in trouble. They need the artificial cough of Heimlich maneuver. So put your victim in front of you. But by the way, I need to tell you this. I'm required to tell you this as a CPR instructor. If you're dealing with someone who's laying on the floor, on the ground, they're unconscious or dead, you have what's referred to as implied consent. Because the implication is if you could magically wake them up, hey, you're dead. I want to do CPR on you. Are you okay with that? You are good. Okay. See, it's implied. You would get their consent. Now, any kind of a medical procedure, they're going to get written consent. But when you have a conscious individual, you're supposed to get informed consent. Works like this. Hey, buddy, I can see that you're choking. Would you like me to help you? You would? All right. If you remember to do that in a real emergency event, good for you. But I'm required to tell you that. Try and get informed consent. I'm going to help you. Okay, good. Get behind your victim. In this case, put your mannequin in front of you. Find the belly button. Now, if you are lucky enough to find your victim, if she has a belly button ring, boy, if she starts jumping and screaming, what's that mean? You're fine. Quit your belly aching. Now, if you don't want to go the ring pull procedure, the more traditional technique would be to place the thumb side of your fist just above their belt line or just above the belly button, grabbing with your other hand. It's an inward, upward thrust. You need the pressure to come up to the diaphragm. If you're doing it correctly, you're going to practically lift them off the floor. Up to 5 times, each one gets a bit more aggressive. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that works properly, the object is expelled. Great. If it doesn't, then we go on to stage 2. Let me set the stage for you on this one. Let's say you're all attending some swanky Hollywood black tie award ceremony. You're all like here sitting in the audience. One man is standing up on stage. Now, it appears to you in the audience that that man is choking on his words. Your natural inclination would be to jump out of your seat, run up on the stage, and to do what to that man? Where? On the back. Unless you're named Will Smith. Oh, sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. That was the slap heard around the world. All right. Will didn't know he gave me that gift when he did that. All right. So lean your victim forward. The heel of your hand goes right between their shoulder blades up to 5 times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should expel the object. If it did not, if it was not expelled, what do we do?
That's stage 2?
Yes, it is. That's stage 2. What do we do? If it didn't work, do it all again. You keep on slapping that guy on the back and punch him in the gut. You're bound to knock that object loose or possibly beat your victim unconscious. Now, if you have an unconscious individual with a blocked airway, in the past, we would straddle them at their knees and perform abdominal thrusts, but that has changed. The new guideline, any unconscious victim with the blocked airway, an adult, a child, even a little baby, if they're unconscious with a blocked airway, we now skip right to what procedure? CPR, but we had one extra step. After the initial 30 compressions, before you give those first 2 breaths, what do we need to do first? Look for the obstruction. Remember that was what happened here. If you see it, remove it, and then you can do the breathing. Do any of you recall a technique we taught for years and years and years? The old blind finger sweep. Remember that? We don't do it anymore. Why should any of you here have to perform the blind finger sweep unless one of you are actually blind, which you're not? Use your eyes. Take a look. If you see it, remove it. All right. Does everything make sense? Any questions? Have any of you seen that new device? It's called a life vac. It's like a plunger that they can use to help someone that's choking. Have any of you seen that device? All right. Yeah, I've heard about it, and people have been asking me about it. It's been out for a couple of years, and in theory, it makes sense, but I really didn't know a whole lot about it until I came across the YouTube video that showed them actually using the device, saving a child. And so I started to do some research on it, and it's actually saved over 1,700 lives. I have one here to show you. And so I bought one. Now it's 70, and understand, I don't get anything for promoting this. I have no connection with the company. I just think it's a great product. It's $70 to buy the kit. In the kit comes the plunger device. And then it has two different options for you. It has an adult mask or a child infant mask. All right. So you just grab that, push it in, put it on them, push it down, and pull it up. And it actually will suction it out. Now you might think, well, Ed, when you push it down, didn't you just push it in further? No, because it actually has a one-way valve where the air is diverted. So no air is pushed in, only pulled back. Great device. Again, the company is called LifeVac. You can go to lifevac.com or 877-LifeVac. I would recommend all of you purchase one. All right. You might say, well, Ed, why didn't you recommend that we purchase the AED? Aren't those also great devices? They are. They're really good. But you have to have a medical directive to get them, and they're about $1,500. So a little bit different than, a $70 device. All right. Any questions? Does that make sense? LifeVac. LifeVac. All right. Put your big guy aside. Grab your baby. Everybody should have a little baby with them. And keep in mind, if you ever do perform CPR on a real baby, whose baby are we talking about? Well, if you're not sure whose baby this one is, I'll tell you what, real quick, take a look up here front and center. Tell me, do you recognize any obvious resemblance? Who's your daddy? It's me. It's me. Well, if it's not your own baby, it'll probably be a niece or a nephew or a friend's baby or a neighbor's baby. Years from now, could be your own grandbaby, but not for at least another 20 years for young Connie. Remember, she's only 32. Oh, wait a minute now. Rob, it was Connie you were telling me about, right? You said Connie grew up in Northern California and she married her cousin. You probably are a 32-year-old grandma after all, probably. All right, so here we go. You cradle robber, you? All right, here we go. On the scene, first, make sure everything around you is... Well, I know Tom knows this signal.
No, safe.
Safe, yes. Make sure everything around you is safe. If it's not safe, grab baby, run to a safe place. Once you're safe, check response. Remember with the adult and the child, we did the tap and shout. Hey, Charlie, you okay? Wake up. With babies, we use tactile stimulation, which is just a sweet way to say, hurt that baby. Grab his little foot, flick it, pinch it. In CPR nowadays, you have to be cruel to be kind. Now, when you're hurting a little baby, what should happen immediately? Of course, if baby's not kicking and screaming from that pain, what kind of situation is this? Is the baby dead? Is he dead? Don't know. Don't know because we haven't checked what yet? Pulse. How would you know someone's dead without checking their pulse? Unless one of you are like that one kid. Remember that kid from the movies 20 years ago? I see dead people. But you don't have a sixth sense like the kid. But this baby is not responsive. That's an emergency. Somebody better go call 911. But what if there's no one to call 911? There's only me and my baby. What do I do? Grab baby, make the call. The quicker we get the call made there, the quicker they're going to get here. In the meantime, how can they help me with my baby over the phone? What can they do for me? Calm me down, coach me through. Could I use the extra help? It's my baby. I'm scared to death. Of course I could. But what if there's nobody around to send, or maybe no phone to send them to? And maybe I don't have my cell phone with me, so Siri can't even help me. I'm on my own. Well, thank goodness everyone in this auditorium and on the Zoom at home, you know that CPR formula. And if you ever do get lost in CPR, Jackson 5 will be there for you. So if you blank out, if you're going CPR, the song, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, E, and someone's going, what are you doing? It's no problem. You tell them, it's modern CPR. I know exactly what I'm doing here because the bald CPR guy taught me. Now, I need you to call 911 and get me jumper cables and a can of gas. Hurry. And wallet and watch. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Now, performing CPR on a baby, the best place to do this is on a raised, hard, flat surface. Tabletop, countertop. Although if the baby is small enough, you can perform CPR with the baby in your arms. To do that, you'd want to support the baby's head and neck. Take his little toes, tuck them right under your arm, and then pull baby's head close to your chest. We call this support, tuck, pull. All right. And we're going to check baby's pulse. Now, babies, besides being born without teeth, you see, they're also pretty much born without, I asked this one question. I said, babies are born without what? And this one woman was so rude to me. I said, babies are born without what? And you know what that mean lady did? She pointed right at me. She said, hair. Genetics, ma'am. I can't help I've gone bald. Special ed for that comment. And by the way, you know what? God only made so many perfect heads. On the rest, he put hair. So there. But one time, one class, one guy, I said, babies are born without what? This one guy. At my last CPR course, our instructor told us that when our babies are born, he said they don't have those art trees in their necks like we do. If your baby happens to be born without carotid arteries, well, that would mean that your baby is born brain dead, just like it's. I did not say dad out loud. Obviously, he was a little bit confused, but I explained it to him very nicely. I said, look, babies do have carotid arteries. They're born with them. But you make a really good point. When there's not much of a neck, it's really difficult to find a baby's carotid pulse. So instead, on babies, we check their brachial pulse. Now, the easiest way to find the brachial pulse on a baby, take 2 fingers to baby's fingers on baby's hand that's closest to you, fingers to fingers. Slide those 2 fingers all the way up to the armpit. If you're doing this correctly, you should have no problem at all supporting that little baby with your 2 fingers just like that. If you do that, baby's just like that, just like that. Hold your babies like that. If I told you to go jump off that bridge, would you do it? If I told you to take your little baby outside right now and hold that little baby over the balcony, would you do it? Okay, still too soon for the MJ jokes. I know, still too soon. So here we are. We're checking baby's brachial pulse. Remember, how long do we check pulses? Remember? 5 to 10 seconds. It's going to feel like forever. No, not finding a pulse. Well, no pulse, of course, tells us what's not working. Then let's work on the baby's heart. How many compressions for the baby? 30 compressions. How many breaths? And by the way, for the baby, when we give the breaths, we put a big mouth where the baby's little mouth and little nose. Big mouth, little cheeky puffs. That's a new medical term, cheeky puffs. Okay, Tom, I know you're going to Google that one also. Please remember, it's cheeky puffs, not cheesy puffs, not cocoa puffs, not cream puffs, but especially not chupacabra. Stay away from them. What kind of a puff? Cheeky puff. Okay. So we're going to do the cheeky puffs. So how many for the baby? Well, how many compressions? 30. How many cheeky puffs? 2. How many hands do we use for baby compressions? 2 fingers or 2 thumbs. Try this. Bring baby in close, usually 2 fingers. Now keep in mind that the depth we want to get on the baby is 1/3 of the depth of the chest or over 1 inch. So whatever one works for you, 1/3 of the depth or 1 inch or more. So with your 2 fingers, try to get that inch or more. Okay, here we go. Do some compressions, just see how much effort that takes with 2 fingers. Now try this. If you had a table service, that would be best, but you can even do this on your lap. Put baby on your lap. Take your fingers on both sides of the baby, put your fingers behind to the baby's back. Then put your thumb on baby's sternum. Put your other thumb on top, so your thumbs are stacked on top. And now with your 2 thumbs and with your hand around baby, do the compressions. Which one's easier? The 2 thumb technique. That's the new guideline for infant CPR. The 2 thumb hand encircling technique. So to get that ingrained in your brain, let's go ahead and practice it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 27, 28, 29, 30. How many cheeky puffs? Put them in. Puff, puff. Uh-oh. Puffs didn't work. No problem. We know the rule. If at first you don't succeed, remember the most common airway obstruction for all the unconscious, adult, child, infant, it's usually their own tongue. Didn't work first time, tilt back just a little bit further, try it again. Here we go, big mouth, little cheeky puffs, puff, puff. The breath didn't work on the second attempt. Well, now, oh, by the way, before you give the 2 puffs, it might be a good idea. Take a look in the mouth in case you do see something. And if you don't see anything, but before you give the 2 puffs, what you don't see, you might feel. Place your hand on baby's chest, then try. Puff, puff. If the puffs were successful, what would you have just felt? You had felt the chest rise. If that didn't happen, it must be a blocked airway. Remember, we talked about this with an unconscious adult, because we used to, with a baby blocked airway, we used to pick them up, turn them over, hit them on the back, turn them over, push on the chest. But remember that guideline change that I talked about earlier? Any unconscious victim of a blocked airway, an adult, a child, and even an infant. If they're unconscious blocked airway, we now go straight to what procedure? What procedure is this? CPR. But what do we add before we give those breaths? Look in the mouth. Remember, blocked airway. So if you can't get the breaths in the second attempt, don't mess around. Just go right straight to CPR, but look in the mouth before the breaths. Okay? Make sense? All right. Now, what if the baby with a blocked airway is actually conscious? So it's laying in the crib, face up, eyes wide open, look of terror in its eyes because it's not getting any air. Without air, it can't make noise. Without oxygen, it's turning what color? Blue. That's a conscious choking baby. Do you want to save that conscious choking baby? Do you want to save it? Do you really mean it? Prove it. Stand up on your feet and grab that baby out of the crib. Everybody on your feet, on your feet, on your feet. Here we go. Take your baby and make a baby sandwich. Sandwich it between your arms. Now, whatever arm the baby is on, step out with your opposite leg. So if it's on your right arm, you put your left foot out and you, sorry, I'm supposed to keep my red neck covered in class. Rob warned me about that. I forgot, Rob. I'm sorry. But take baby sandwich, turn it over, lay it against your leg. Baby said, points down. Remind me, please, somebody, what does gravity do? Potty mouth Tom, what does gravity do? Gravity. It sucks, exactly. Gravity's going to help you in this case. Heel of your hand between baby's shoulder blades. Be sure you are supporting baby's head and neck. Very important. Up to 5 back blows. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up to 5. If 1, 2, and the object pops loose, please don't go 3, 4, 5. No. Now the object popped, if it popped loose, it would probably land where? In your hand. And how would your conscious baby tell you it's breathing now? Because what you've been doing to it? Beating it, you meanies. But remember in CPR nowadays, you have to be cruel to be kind. Now the back blows were not successful. Step 2, lift the baby sandwich, switch your legs, turn baby to that leg. Again, baby's head's pointing down, so gravity helps. Now you can actually move baby's shirt up because we're going to move from baby's belly to baby's chest. Here's why. There is a valid concern that if you are pushing too hard on that baby's belly, you could cause internal trauma. Moving on to the chest, you're on the hard, bony sternum. Actually, there are 3 groups of conscious choking victims that we push on their chest, not on the belly. Babies are one of the 3 groups. Who are the other 2 groups? Again, they're conscious, they're choking, push on their chest, don't push on their belly. Who would you not want to push on their belly? Pregnant what? Pregnant women. Pregnant birthing people, have you not been paying attention to pronouns? Of course, pregnant women, what other kind are there? And who's the third group? But we'll use a polite term.
Somebody that says horrible flatulence.
Yeah, and someone that's heavy. I've heard obese. I've heard rotund. But you know what? The politest term I have ever heard, fluffy. So if there's too much fluffy, then move up to the chest thrust. So a conscious choking obese individual, chest thrust. Conscious choking pregnant woman, chest thrust. Conscious choking baby, chest thrust. Here we go. Up to 5 chest thrusts. Baby's head pointing down. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Baby is still conscious, still choking. How many times do we repeat the baby sandwich on a conscious choking baby? How many times?
Until it's.
As many times as it's going to take till one of the important P words happen. The P words like pop out, puke out, pass out. Who's on the way out? Also a P word. Just call them paramedics. Other P words might come out. We ignore those P words like pee-pee and poo-poo, but please do not ignore po-po. Now, if suddenly your baby went unconscious and still has a blocked airway, what do we do now?
Get a life back.
Unconscious baby, blocked airway. What do we do? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's time for CPR. Back to your seats. It's time for CPR. Here we go. And let's use that 2-thumb technique. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. And actually, let me stop for a moment. I passed over what Joey said, but he does brilliant. He said, get that life back and use that. Perfect. Yeah, that would be, if you had one, that would be the time to use it. Okay. All right, let's keep going. 27, 28, 29, 30. Before the cheeky puffs, what do we need to do first? Check in the mouth. Look, it's a Lego. Get it out. And now let's try those cheeky puffs. Hand on chest. Here we go. Puff, puff. Were the breaths successful? Did they work? How do you know the breaths worked? Because it's time to wrap up the course. There's only a few minutes left. Oh, you're right. Chest rise. That's more important. So we had a little roadblock. We fixed it. We're back on track. Let's check baby's pulse. We got the airway open. Let's maybe see if we get lucky. Checking the pulse, and no, there's no pulse. Well, at least we have an open airway. So let's go back to our CPR. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 27, 28, 29, 30. Puff, puff. And we don't have to look in the mouth now because we already took the obstruction out. So here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We will continue with the 30 and 2 for how many minutes before rechecking the pulse? 2 minutes. Takes how many cycles to make? 2 minutes. 5. And our state of mind with a baby, do you think we might lose track of the cycles? Of course. But remember the beauty of CPR. Close is good enough. When you feel it's been around 2 minutes, about 5 cycles, go ahead, check the pulse. Would you say it's been about 5 cycles now? I think we should probably check with the one person this week. We can always count on for her truthfulness. Connie has been 5 cycles now? You don't even tell the truth about your age. I'm not sure I should listen to you, young lady. Okay, so we'll say it's been 5. So we're checking the pulse. Tell me, Miss Honesty, are we finding a pulse? Yeah, we got a pulse. All right. So let's see. We got the pulse. They're breathing. All right. And what are we going to do here? Waiting for the paramedics. We have a pulse. They're breathing. Maintain monitor, M&M, that's right. So you can actually pick baby up in your arm and, well, wait a minute now, wait a minute. We have pulse, my bad. We didn't check for breathing yet. We have a pulse, that's good, but we still need to check on that breathing. Let's check on the breathing. No, baby's not breathing. You know what? This whole mannequin family here has some kind of a genetic disorder. I don't think we really talked about it with the child, but with an adult, has a pulse, is not breathing. We give them 1 full rescue breath every how many seconds?
Every
5 seconds. If a child has a pulse, isn't breathing, we give them half a breath every 3 seconds. A baby has a pulse, they're breathing. We stick with every 3 seconds, but for baby, not a full breath, not a half breath. Remind me, it's what kind of breath for the baby? Cheeky puff. If you try to give the full, even the half breath, you'll be here going, and that poor little baby is going to be going, It's not a baby balloon. Don't blow it away. So fingers on the pulse. They do a cheeky puff, puff, turn and count. 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Puff, 2, 1,000. Breathing is back. Heart's working. Lungs are working. The sky opened up. Angels are now singing. Angels are singing. Yes, hallelujah. Now, do we care if our little baby spits up on us? So bend the rule, turn baby towards you. For a moment, you can hug and cuddle. Remember, you still have work. M&M. Maintain recovery position. What's our second M? Maintain and? What 2 functions do we continue to monitor waiting for the EMS to arrive? Yes, heart and lungs, breathing and circulation. Where on babies do we monitor circulation? That's right, they're on brachial. While we're doing the M and M, what else are we doing? Watching and waiting and wondering and worrying and whining. Where are they? Where aren't they here? And then we hear it. The most beautiful music in the world. Which would immediately go from the crying solo to the crying duo. And then it becomes a wailing trio when you hear what coming up the street.
The siren.
Sirens of the ambulance. And then there's that knock upon your front door. You open the door. What took you guys so long? Check my baby. But before you turn your baby over to the professionals, show them respect. Take your little baby, turn that little baby over, turn it over. See if there's anything they should know about. Go ahead, check that little guy's diaper. See if there's anything. Check it. There's a diaper dookie in there. Get out, a teeny tootsie turdy. And talk about junk in the trunk. But I'm thinking that if you were that considerate to warn the paramedics about your baby's diaper, I bet they'll be nice to you. I bet they'll give you a moment to run back into your own place and change your own pants. Because if that were your baby, they ain't gonna be dry or clean. Now tell me, pardon me, does CPR work every time?
No.
Why not? Because they're dead. That's the worst thing about CPR. It's only for dead people, but take heart. For the very last, I have saved the very best. Every year in the good old US of A, CPR saves over 150,000 dead people because someone just like you jumps in, starts CPR, and buys them precious time. Do we perform perfect CPR like professionals? No. But whatever we can do for them right here, right now, it's got to be better than nothing. Now, I'm asked from time to time if I have performed CPR. I've been involved in CPR events twice, and both of my victims did not survive. No. That means in 2 years from now, you're going to probably find a better CPR instructor, aren't you? I understand completely. The first time I did it was March 10 of 2001. I was teaching a CPR class at the 24-hour fitness center in Corona. During the class, one of the staff came running in. One of our members just collapsed. We called 911. He needs CPR. I actually had to stop teaching CPR and go perform CPR. And this was long before they made the legal requirement for AEDs to be at health clubs, so they didn't have one then. And the second time I was involved in a CPR event was March 18 of 2019. And you know where that was? It was at a Toastmasters speech contest in Redlands. I was one of the evaluators for a contest. I was also speaking in the speech contest. And the test speaker, Kenny Johnson, during his speech, mid-speech, his eyes rolled back. He fell back on stage. A group of us went up, and sure enough, he needed CPR. And the paramedics came out, they used a defibrillator, couldn't bring him back. So it happens. And you probably heard about the event that happened last January. It was on Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin, young player, took a hard blow to the chest, went into full cardiac arrest. For 12 and a half minutes on national television, they performed CPR on that young man. They used a defibrillator on that young man. And you know the results. That poor young man did not survive. He survived. He's back on the team again. CPR is amazing. It does work. Now, reality check is if you ever do perform real CPR, it will likely be one of the scariest events in your entire life. I'm very proud to say that this has been my lifetime career. Sometime in this year, I will teach my 10,000th CPR course. This could be it. I don't know. Sometime in 2024, I'll teach my 10,000th CPR course. The 2 times I was involved in CPR, I guarantee you, when we were done, I was shaken up. You might forget a few of the things that we just talked about. That's okay. Remember, the CPR isn't so much from here. The real CPR will be coming from where? Trust your gut instincts. Put your heart and soul into it. Make sure right from the start, someone is on the phone calling and retrieving the AED. If you don't have an AED, getting the gas and jumper cables. We talked about that. In the meantime, while you're waiting for the paramedics to arrive, if your victim does need CPR, what are the universal numbers for all CPR victims now? All victims. What's the ratio? What's the numbers? 32. If you forget the important numbers 32, just make up your own favorite numbers, like someone does about her age. Just don't give up on your victim, because in the book of Ed, the only bad CPR for a dead person would be no CPR. All right, any final question for me? I have one final question for all of you, then you're all done. Not going to make anyone stay for special ed. You did very, very well. Right now, if someone hit the floor in full arrest, could you get in there with your heart and soul, with all your passion? Could you at least try to give them that second chance for life with the magic of CPR? If you could at least try, then please let me see those hands nice and high. Give yourselves a big round of applause. I'm so proud of you. Each and every one of you have now graduated with honors. And we should have some music playing here. That's right. You can hum it for us. There we go. For those in the listening audience. Yeah, Radio Shack. All right. That concludes the program. Tom, back to Connie, back to you.
32 is also 2 to the 5th power.
Also what?
32 is also 2 to the 5th power.
Oh.
So if you want to tie that 5 in.
It's also Magic Johnson's retired number. It also was O.J. Simpson's number. So
Yeah, John, amazing.
I haven't heard him. I'd love to hear him.
He is. I saw him down at the China. He was almost, he's like a 6'9" Steve Harvey. He's got this big grin.
I have to come over.
Oh, sorry. You might, don't you? Miss 32.
Wow, I get to be 32 again, Tom. Well, we'd like to thank, pardon?
You're in trouble.
Well, we'd like to thank Rob for making this happen this month and every month. I don't know what we do without you. And we'd like to thank
The peanut gallery.
Shanty, who makes sure we have nice flyers to advertise the event. And to thank the VA hospital for allowing us to be here. Our next meeting is March 6th. We don't know for sure what's happening.
That's some exciting things going on in the next 2 months.
We've got some exciting events in the plans. We just don't know which is going to happen which month. So. And, oh, one thing we learned, I don't know if you knew this, we have a friend, their daughter married somebody from Slovenia. And we understand that you have to take CPR, I don't know if you have to pass it or what, before you get your driver's license in that country.
Love it. Some high schools are now requiring it as part of, not in California, but I think Washington and some others require for graduation that students have to all learn CPR.
And I don't know if I can, oh, there they are. Do we have news from the district?
Yes, thank you so much, Connie. Welcome, everybody. And thank you so much for everybody that was able to attend today. We have quite a lot of things going on. As you are aware, right now, we are in the middle of contest season. It's always exciting. We are working on the international speech contest along with the table topics inside the clubs. And starting on February 24th, we will start our area contest. That will be starting with areas a 1 through 5 on February 24th. You'll be seeing more information on the Tuesday emailer that comes out with any of the links. Also, just want to remind everybody that currently, members all over our district are renewing their dues. So make sure you renew your dues, get your clubs active, and make sure you guys are participating. We have lots of great things coming up as well. Outside of just the contest, we have our spring conference that's planned for May 4th, plus lots of great other things. Today's been a very busy Toastmasters day as well. We also went to a demo meeting today for a potential new club that had over 40 attendees. So things are definitely growing and doing well right now for District 12. And I want to thank Tom and Connie and Rob for putting on this program every single month and really doing such a great job. It's a great asset. And I know Michael too. Want to make sure I thank him too it's a great asset that all of you guys do to be able to help support this district with this program. So I really appreciate it, and have a great night, everybody. And please be safe out there with this rain that's coming. So thank you all so much.
A reminder, if you haven't got your officers trained.
Yeah, we have opportunities to have officers trained.
We do, yes. There is some opportunities for officer training as well. You'll see that on the Tuesday email as well for those coming up. I know Division E already has some makeup trainings, plus some of the other divisions are going to be rolling those out. We have our program quality director also has an advanced officers training planned. So just keep an eye out on the Tuesday email. You'll be getting more information about those as we get those, but definitely make sure you get your officers trained. And we have a great incentive right now for if you get all 7 of your officers trained by towards the end of February. What will happen is if you get all 7 trained, you get 4 free tickets to our hybrid training during the summer. So this gives you an opportunity. We will be doing our training in the summer in person and hybrid. So that'll get you an opportunity to be able to attend TLI for your club for free. So keep an eye out for that information as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Jeremiah. Well, it's time to end this fun and very informative evening. A big thank you to Judy for sharing information with us that I bet most people were not aware of this situation. And for Ed for making us knowledgeable about CPR and doing it in such a fun way. Thank you for attending, those here in person and those on Zoom. And we look forward to seeing you on March 6th at the next Speakers Bureau. Thank you.